top story at 6. Monroe Mayor Friday Ellis and the Monroe Police Department held a press conference today after a triple homicide took place in the city last night.
The father's voice cracks in the darkness. He's not begging for himself, he's begging for someone smaller, someone innocent. The response? Silence. Then, gunfire. October 28, 2025, Monroe, Louisiana, 2:30 in the morning. A back door splinters open. What happens next leaves 3 people dead and an entire city demanding answers. 2 men, 1 toddler, all gone in minutes. But here's what makes this different. This wasn't random. The killer knew them, walked right up to that house with a plan, a grudge, and nothing to lose. And the wildest part? 4 days earlier, everything seemed fine. A homecoming game, friends celebrating. Then, one moment changed everything. Now the question everyone's asking, how does a fight at a high school football game end with a 2-year-old in a body bag? Drop your city in the comments right now, because what I'm about to tell you will shake you. Hit that subscribe button. Welcome to True Crime Malice, where the truth hits different. Let's go. Monroe, Louisiana, population just under 50,000, sits right along the Washita River in the northeastern corner of the state. It's the kind of place where Friday night lights mean everything, where grandmas cook soul food on Sundays, and where neighbors still wave at each other from their porches. But don't let that small town charm fool you. Monroe has been bleeding for years. The poverty rate hovers around 35%, nearly triple the national average. For a city its size, the violent crime rate is off the charts. We're talking assaults, armed robberies, and homicides that keep stacking up year after year. In fact, Monroe consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous small cities in the entire country. It's not that there aren't good people there, because there are. Hard-working families trying to make ends meet, kids with dreams bigger than their zip code, churches packed every Sunday praying for change. But the reality is, opportunity is scarce, jobs are limited, and when desperation meets frustration, violence becomes the language too many people speak. And as the sun came up on October 28th, the whole city woke up to a nightmare they couldn't unsee. Police tape wrapped around a quiet street, news cameras everywhere, and 3 bodies inside a home that was supposed to be a safe place. So let's talk about who was inside that house, because before they became victims, they were people, and their story matters. Before we talk about how they died, we need to talk about how they lived, because these weren't just names on a police report. They were sons, fathers, friends, and family, and understanding who they were makes what happened to them even more devastating. DeBoris Simpson, 25 years old. Born and raised in Monroe, the kind of guy who kept his circle tight and his loyalty tighter. He wasn't flashy, wasn't trying to be seen. He moved quiet, stayed out of trouble, and focused on what mattered most to him, his daughter. When Juhersi was born 2 years ago, everything changed for DeBoris. Friends who knew him said he became a different man overnight. Not in a bad way, in the best way possible. He wasn't hanging out late anymore, wasn't chasing the streets. He was home, changing diapers, warming up bottles at 3 a.m., taking her to doctor's appointments even when he was exhausted. And it wasn't just his daughter he was devoted to. DeBoris had the same group of friends since elementary school. That's rare. Most people outgrow their childhood crew, but not him. He treated his boys like brothers, and they treated him the same way. Latrice even said she considered them her own kids because of how close they all were. DeBoris wasn't perfect, none of us are, but he was trying. He was building something. A life. A future. A family. Juhersi Simpson, 2 years old. There's not much you can say about a 2-year-old's life because she barely got to live one, but the people who knew her say she was pure light. Always smiling, always laughing, the kind of kid who lit up a room just by walking into it. She had her daddy's eyes and her mama's smile. She loved playing with her toys, watching cartoons, and being held by the people she loved. She was at that age where everything is new and exciting, where the world is big and full of wonder. Her favorite person? Her dad. She followed him everywhere. If Jabori was in the kitchen, Chersi was right there tugging on his pants. If he sat down, she climbed into his lap. She didn't know what danger was. Didn't know what evil looked like. She was just a baby, and she trusted the world to keep her safe. Bosley, 27 years old. If Jaboris was the quiet one, Jamal was the glue. The type of friend who showed up when you needed him, no questions asked, no hesitation, just loyalty. He and Jaboris went way back. Elementary school, middle school, high school. They grew up together, went through the ups and downs of life side by side. Jamal wasn't just a friend to Jaboris, he was family. The kind of bond that doesn't break, no matter what. People in the community described Jamal as kind-hearted and dependable. He wasn't in the streets causing problems. He wasn't beefing with anybody. He was just living his life, supporting his people, and trying to make it like everybody else. On the night of October 28th, Jamal was at Jaboris's house doing what he always did, being a brother, hanging out, probably laughing about old memories, maybe playing video games, just being there. He had no idea that being loyal would cost him his life. These three people, Jaboris, Jersey, and Jamal, were living normal lives. They weren't out looking for trouble, they were home, in their own space, minding their business. But 4 days before they were murdered, something happened, something that seemed small at the time, but would spiral into something deadly. A homecoming game, a confrontation, and a man who couldn't let it go. Let's rewind to where it all started. October 24th, 2025. Friday night. Richwood High School in Monroe is hosting their homecoming game. For a lot of people in the community, homecoming isn't just a football game. It's a reunion, a chance to see old classmates, reminisce about the good old days, and celebrate where you came from. Jaboris and Jamal were excited. This was their alma mater. They walked these halls, wore these colors, played on this field, so when homecoming rolled around, they weren't missing it. Jaboris even brought his daughter Jersey. She was dressed cute, probably excited to be out with her daddy, soaking in the lights and the energy. It was supposed to be a good night, a simple night. But before they could even make it through the gates, everything went sideways. A group of men approached them. Words were exchanged, tensions rose, and then, out of nowhere, one of the men threw a punch while Jaboris was holding his daughter. Let that sink in for a second. A grown man swung on another man who had a 2-year-old in his arms. Jaboris had no choice. He put Jersey down, and the fight was on. Jamal jumped in to back his boy up. According to witnesses and family members, neither Jaboris nor Jamal wanted to fight. They weren't there for that. But when you're disrespected like that, when someone puts your child in danger, you defend yourself. The altercation didn't last long, security broke it up, police showed up, and in the end, both Jaboris and one of the other men involved were arrested. Charged with simple offenses, the kind of thing that usually results in a fine, maybe some community service, and everyone moves on with their lives. Jaboris and Jamal left that night thinking it was over, a stupid fight, a bad moment, but nothing worth dwelling on. They had no idea they were being watched. See, most people can take an L and move on. They get embarrassed, maybe talk some trash on social media, and that's it. But not everyone operates like that. Some people can't handle being disrespected. Some people let their ego write checks their common sense can't cash. And one of those people was Travis Payton, 24 years old. A man with a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt, 11 prior arrests, 3 convictions. He'd been in and out of the system for years. Drugs, guns, resisting arrest. He was sentenced to over 15 years in prison but only served less than 3, and at the time of the homecoming fight he was out on probation. He should have been keeping his head down, staying out of trouble, grateful for the second chance he didn't deserve. But instead he was nursing a grudge. According to Jaboris's mother, Latrice, Payton and his crew didn't just let the homecoming fight go. They tracked Jaboris, followed him, watched his movements, figured out where he lived, and for 4 days, they planned their revenge. Now here's where it gets even more twisted. This wasn't about defending honor. This wasn't about standing up for something that mattered. This was about ego, about a man so insecure, so fragile, that he couldn't handle losing a fistfight. And instead of moving on, instead of being the bigger person, he decided that murder was the answer. Not just murder, but a home invasion, a planned, premeditated attack on a man, his best friend, and a 2-year-old child who had nothing to do with any of it. Think about that for a second. Jersey didn't throw a punch. She didn't say a word. She was just a baby, probably asleep in her bed when the door got kicked in. And Travis Payton didn't care. Now let me ask you something. How many times have you seen someone hold on to a grudge that wasn't worth it? How many times have you watched people escalate situations that could have been squashed with a conversation? Drop a comment and let me know, because this mentality right here, this "I can't let it slide" attitude, is what gets people killed. Let's talk about the night everything went wrong. October 28th, 2025. 2:30 in the morning. Most of Monroe is asleep. The streets are quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel safe in your own home. Inside the residence on Grammont Street, Jaboris, Jamal, and little Jahersi are settling in for the night. Maybe they've been watching TV, maybe playing video games. Maybe Jaboris had just put his daughter to bed, tucking her in like he did every night. Whatever they were doing, they weren't expecting company. And then the back door exploded inward. The sound of wood splintering, boots hitting the floor, voices shouting. In seconds, the peace of that home turned into chaos. Inside, cabinets were ripped open, closets ransacked, drawers pulled out and dumped on the floor. They were looking for something: money, drugs, valuables. But more than that, they were looking to send a message. And they brought the tools to do it. When Monroe police arrived at the scene just after 3:00 a.m., what they found was nothing short of a massacre. 2 adult males down, 1 toddler barely clinging to life, blood everywhere, shell casings scattered across the floor, the kind of scene that makes even seasoned officers pause. Yabori Simpson and Jamal Bosley were pronounced dead at the scene. Both had been shot in the head, execution style. No chance to fight back, no chance to run. Little Jersey was rushed to a nearby hospital. Doctors and nurses worked frantically to save her, but the damage was too severe. Her tiny body couldn't survive what had been done to her. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. A 2-year-old, gone. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Investigators found something at the crime scene that told them this wasn't just a quick hit. This was overkill. 2 different calibers of shell casings. That means at least 2 guns were used, but it gets worse. Forensic analysis revealed that the victims had been shot multiple times, and some of those shots came after they were already on the ground, after they were no longer a threat. They shot them again just to make sure. That's not self-defense, that's not heat of the moment, that's cold-blooded execution. And if that wasn't enough, the killers took their time. They went through the house, opening cabinets, searching closets, looking for anything of value. Among the items reported missing, a PlayStation 5. Yeah, you heard that right. They murdered 3 people and stole a gaming console on the way out. That's the level of depravity we're dealing with here. A man so petty, so heartless, that he could take 3 lives over a bruised ego and a piece of electronics. As the sun came up on October 28th, the Monroe Police Department launched a full-scale investigation. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, collected evidence, interviewed witnesses, and the tips started pouring in. The community wasn't staying silent. People were angry, people were heartbroken, and people wanted justice. Within hours, a name surfaced: Travis Tyrone Payton. If the system had done its job, if he'd served his full sentence, he would have been locked up, unable to hurt anyone. But instead, he was walking free, and now 3 people were dead because of it. Investigators dug deeper. They pulled phone records tied to Payton's number, and what they found was damning. His phone was active in the area of Grammont Street leading up to the murders. Then, right before the attack, his phone powered off. Completely dark, no signal, no activity. And then, after the murders, it powered back on. Classic move. Turn off your phone so it can't be tracked during the crime. Turn it back on after you think you're in the clear. But here's the thing, detectives aren't stupid. They know that trick. And it didn't save him. Less than 24 hours after the murders, Monroe police held a press conference. Mayor Friday Ellis stood alongside Police Chief Vic Zordon, and the message was clear. We got him. Travis Payton was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, home invasion, and criminal conspiracy. Chief Zordon didn't mince words.
Make no bones about it, baby killers are our highest priority. Any loss of life is terrible. But to do that to a child who never had a chance to do anything is unacceptable in any world.
The community erupted. Some cheered, some cried, some demanded more arrests because the word conspiracy meant Payton didn't act alone. And they were right. A few days later, a second arrest was made. Cameron James Kreiner, 24 years old. Another man with a disgusting criminal history. Domestic abuse, child endangerment, illegal possession of a firearm. 2 men, 2 cowards, both now behind bars. But the damage was done. 3 lives were gone, and a family was left to pick up the pieces of a tragedy that never should have happened. Let's talk about the mother who had to bury her son and granddaughter on what was supposed to be her birthday. There are some phone calls you never forget, the kind that split your life into before and after, the kind that make your knees buckle and your world stop spinning. Latrice Simpson got that call in the early hours of October 28th. Her son was dead, her granddaughter was fighting for her life, and Jamal, the boy she'd raised like her own, was gone too. But here's the part that makes it even more cruel. This all happened on her birthday. The one day a year that's supposed to be about celebration, about joy, about being surrounded by the people you love. Instead, Latrice spent it identifying bodies, planning funerals, and trying to understand how the world could be this evil. In a Facebook post that would later go viral, she wrote, "My birthday will never be the same. I kicked, screamed, punched at the air, fell out and hollered, 'Daddy, please come out of that house.' My baby and Basili came out in body bags." Read that again. She was outside that house, begging for her son to walk out, praying it was all a mistake, hoping somehow he'd survived. But he didn't, neither did Jamel, and hours later, little Jersey would be gone too. Latrice didn't hide her grief. She didn't try to be strong for the cameras or put on a brave face for social media. She let the world see her pain, raw and unfiltered. Let that sink in. Jaboris didn't just beg for himself, he begged for Jersey. A father's last words were probably spent trying to protect his little girl, and they killed her anyway. When Travis Payton was arrested, Latrice's grief turned into rage. "Oh, thank you, God," she wrote. "My baby and Bosley begged for their lives." That was cold and calculated, man. They didn't deserve what tragedy took place. Y'all stole a PS5 plus 3 innocent lives. It wasn't that serious. This wasn't just a mother mourning. This was a mother demanding accountability, demanding justice, demanding that the world see her son and granddaughter as more than just statistics. But then the rumors started. You know how it goes. Any time something like this happens, people start speculating, making assumptions, spreading lies, and in this case, the narrative being pushed was that the murders were drug-related. Latrice wasn't having it. She came back to Facebook with receipts, with clarity, and with fire. They can say what they want. I'll be transparent about my baby's death, his daughter's, and Jamal's. It did not stem from narcotics. She laid out exactly what happened. The homecoming game, the unprovoked attack, the fact that Jaboris was holding his daughter when someone swung on him, the arrest that followed, and the 4 days of stalking that led to the murders. Latrice wasn't just fighting for justice in the courtroom, she was fighting for her son's reputation, for the truth, for the memory of a father who loved his daughter more than anything in the world. And she made one thing crystal clear. This wasn't about drugs. This wasn't about the streets. This was about revenge, about ego, about a coward who couldn't let a fight go. The community heard her, and they rallied. When tragedy strikes, you find out real quick what a community is made of, and Monroe showed up. Within 48 hours of the murders, the city came together in a way that reminded everyone why small towns matter, why neighbors looking out for neighbors still means something, why justice isn't just a word, it's a collective demand. Tips flooded into the Monroe Police Department. People who saw something, people who heard something, people who weren't about to let baby killers walk free in their city. And it worked. Less than 8 hours after the press conference announcing the investigation, Travis Payton was in handcuffs. That's not luck. That's a community refusing to stay silent. On a cool evening in late October, hundreds gathered for a vigil on the very street where Jaboris, Jersey, and Jamal lost their lives. Grandmont Street, usually quiet and unassuming, was packed with people holding candles, clutching balloons, and wiping away tears. Red balloons for Jaboris, pink for baby Jersey, blue for Jamal. As the sun set, those balloons were released into the sky, a sea of color rising above the pane, carrying the names of 3 people who deserved so much more than the hand they were dealt. Patrice stood in the middle of it all, surrounded by family, friends, and strangers who felt like family. She could barely stand, her voice cracked every time she tried to speak. But she was there, because her son, her granddaughter, and Jamal deserved to be remembered. Ministers prayed, community leaders spoke, and one by one, people walked up to Latrice, hugging her, holding her hand, letting her know she wasn't alone.
Grab her hand, squeeze it, walk by. Let her know you are here.
Mayor Friday Ellis didn't waste time with political talk. He stood at that press conference with fire in his eyes and grief in his voice. A 2-year-old baby, innocent, defenseless, and full of promise, was killed, along with 2 adult males in a violent home invasion. This is not just a tragedy, it is a moral wake-up call. He didn't sugarcoat it, he didn't make excuses, he called it what it was: evil. Police Chief Vic Zordon stood beside him, visibly shaken but resolute.
What we have here is a special kind of evil. There's evil in the world, but this is a different kind. Retribution was a possibility, and what I encourage the public to do is not take matters into your own hands. I know when the situation is significant as this, when you've got a 2.5-year-old female baby dead, that you want to take things in your own hands. Don't do that. That makes things worse.
Councilwoman Juanita Woods echoed that sentiment. This has been such a tragic time for our community, but I want this family to know that the city of Monroe is here to support you 100%. We're so sorry for your loss, and we're going to keep you lifted up in our prayers. But even with arrests made and the community united, the questions remained. How do we stop this from happening again? What lessons can we take from this nightmare? Let's talk about that. First, ego is not worth your life. Travis Payton couldn't handle being embarrassed at a homecoming game. That's it. That's what this boils down to. He got into a fight, probably felt disrespected, and instead of moving on like a grown man, he let his pride turn him into a murderer. Second, the system is broken. Let's talk about Travis Payton's record. 11 arrests, 3 convictions, sentenced to over 15 years in prison, but he only served less than 3. Read that again. He should have been locked up. He should have been nowhere near Grandmont Street on October 28th, but because of early release, probation, and a system that keeps giving violent offenders second chances, he was free. And 3 people paid the price. We need real sentencing reform, not the kind that sounds good in a campaign speech, but the kind that actually keeps dangerous people off the streets. Because every time someone like Travis Payton gets released early, we're rolling the dice with innocent lives. Judges, prosecutors, parole boards, they need to be held accountable, because if you let a violent offender walk free and they kill again, that blood is on your hands too. Third, protect your peace. Jaboris was home, minding his business, taking care of his daughter. He wasn't out in the streets, he wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble found him anyway. And that's the harsh reality. Sometimes it doesn't matter how right you're living. Sometimes evil comes knocking on your door. So what do? You protect your space. You pay attention to who knows where you live. You don't broadcast your location on social media. You invest in security, cameras, alarms, whatever you can afford, and you trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore that feeling. Don't assume everything will be fine, because in situations like this, being cautious could save your life. Families who go through tragedies like this need support, not just in the days after, but months and years down the line. Therapy, financial help, a shoulder to cry on, someone to remind them they're not alone. If you know someone who's grieving, don't just send a text and disappear. Show up, be present. Because healing doesn't happen overnight, and nobody should have to go through it alone. This case is a wake-up call for individuals, for the justice system, for all of us. Now let's bring it home. DeBoris Simpson spent his last moments begging for his daughter's life. Jamal Bosley died standing by his best friend. And Jerishe, a 2-year-old with pigtails and a smile that could light up a room, never got the chance to grow up. All because a man couldn't let go of a fight. All because the system failed to keep a repeat offender behind bars. All because ego, pride, and a PlayStation 5 were somehow worth more than human life. Travis Payton and Cameron Kreiner are sitting in jail right now, facing 3 counts of first-degree murder. They'll likely never see freedom again. But that doesn't bring Jaboris back. It doesn't bring Jamal back. And it sure as hell doesn't bring baby Jersey back. Latrice will never celebrate another birthday without thinking about the day she lost everything. Jersey's mother will never hear her daughter call her mama again. And the city of Monroe will carry this scar for generations. But here's what I want you to take away from this. Evil doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from people you know. People who smile in your face. People who can't handle being told no or being embarrassed. Pay attention, protect your peace, and don't let pride cost you everything. Rest in peace to Jaboris Simpson, Jersey Simpson, and Jamal Bosley. 3 lives that mattered, 3 names we won't forget. If you want to support the family, there's a link in the description. And if this story hit you the way it hit me, smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to True Crime Malice. We'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.